on? My name is Shaked Bartal, Sports Guy Show, talking Carolina Panthers with you tonight. NFL Draft recap, where we'll recap the draft, give you my take and my guest, Panther Ball, going to join me any second from now, and we will recap the draft, talk about the picks that we like, the picks that we didn't like, and just talk in general about the NFL draft, as we are very close, ladies and gentlemen, to the NFL schedule release. Will be released in 2 weeks from now. Do you know where you will find the official schedule release? On my channel, the Sports Guy Show, right here, ladies and gentlemen. This is where you will find the, the live schedule release. I'm going to share the link once again with my friend Bon, and then we will waiting for Mr. Bo to join us. Going to share the screen. What's going on, Bo? How you doing tonight?
Hey, good man. Hope you're doing well.
Doing well, recovering from COVID, but could be worse. Could be so much worse. But anyway, I figure we talked about what what took place in the draft, Panthers wise, NFL wise, because we had an interesting draft, to say it the least. And when we did a show on Thursday night, the Panthers drafted the left tackle Monroe Freeman. And then second night, second round, they drafted Lee Hunter and Chris Browswell, the wideout from Tennessee. Then on the third day, they drafted a cornerback, they drafted a safety, a center, and a linebacker. And of those picks, the one that I'm a big fan of was the center. I think they got a steal, absolutely a steal. The safety I'm okay with, but I don't think, unfortunately, is good enough right now to replace Nick Scott, which everyone know what my feeling regarding Nick Scott. And cornerback, they got a good cornerback, but is he is better than Shaw Wade Smith to be determined. So basically, in my opinion, the biggest get for the Panthers is the center. We got to steal. Thank you. I appreciate, guys. Appreciate the like and smash the like button and subscribe. And I let the floor to Bo.
Uh, I thought it was a good draft. I mean, every pick made sense at some degree. Now, was every pick the sexiest? Uh, not if not if you like big old hog mollies, right, on both sides of the ball. Um, but for some football people, that is sexy. So having stability in the trenches is, I mean, you saw how much money they're spending on the offensive line. I mean, that's a smart move to make sure that you got to get younger at those positions. So I understand it. I'm looking forward to seeing how good some of these guys are because you heard it throughout all these picks is high ceiling, high ceiling, high ceiling. I still believe Bryce has a high ceiling, even though we're going into another year. But the one thing that they've had that issues with on this offense has been speed. So I was kind of waiting by that third pick. I'm like, okay, you guys acknowledge the fact that we've got some speed issues on this team. So I know everyone's excited about the Tennessee wideout. Was it Bazel?
Brazil. Yeah,
Yeah,
Brazil.
yeah. Chris, yeah. The second Texas, I think he's a Texas guy too.
No,
Um,
yeah, but he went to
yeah,
Tulane with the NIL. Basically, they can go to anywhere. Purdue, Alabama, you name it.
but uh, but yeah, I thought that was important. You know, I was just it seemed like all these picks they got, it was almost like they kind of fell to them a little bit. And normally we're the ones that if we don't get the pick now, we might lose them. And some of these guys, it just shows you how patient they were. I could never be that patient. God knows Scott Fitter isn't that patient. Um, but that's a situation they put themselves in between free agency and the players they've already developed on this team. So yeah, well, I liked it. I gave it an A.
Yeah, I mean, I I like the picks, but personally, I would have preferred, for example, safety from Toledo instead of Penn State, who is more ready to start. I would have preferred a tight end, but if you notice, tight end, they didn't even sign a free agent tight end, undrafted. So they're fully on board with the tight end room. Now, speaking of undrafted, and I think is the steal of the draft not being drafted, Ain Skin, the quarterback from Georgia, Georgia Tech, would, if I believe correctly, his former coach at Georgia Tech used to be the offensive coordinator or head coach at Navy, if I remember correctly, or maybe a different coach. Because basically, we are looking at Tyson Hill 2.0. So he doesn't have a strong throwing arm, Einstein, but he is as tough as a beast.
Yeah, that was kind of like a nice little sprinkle on top right there, right? I mean,
Yeah,
there's I'm out in Dallas. There's a contingent of Cowboys fans that they were talking about. They wanted him. I think he's got ties out here as well. But yeah, I thought that was a steal for sure. And if you're Canales, it's like, man, what a fun player to develop for this offense. Now, does anything happen with that? We'll see. But I can say that there were, because I heard on the radio, I heard fans talking. There was a contingent of Cowboys fans that wanted that dude.
and I mean, they gave him a lot of money, 250,000 guaranteed, which definitely indicate they are very high on. I mean, last season, Ryan Fitzpatrick, they gave him substantial amount of money, the kicker and other players. So they definitely see potential with him. But as far as the draft, I mean, Lee Antel is not going to produce a lot of sacks, but it's basically like Branson Buckner, Chris Jenkins, Ashawn Robinson replacement in essence. So that should free up Derek Brown, Bobby Brown, the Browns boys, and Tork Walton and company, and Ken Jackson to produce a bigger numbers. Now, I will say as far as the wideout go, on paper, we are so damn deep. We are much deeper than last season. And this, I feel like, should put Jimmy Owen Jr. job at jeopardy, which I'm a fan of him because I think he has the skills to develop into a good wideout. So I wouldn't want him to be cut. But also, I think David No More has a chance not to make the team. And Excel has been put on notice because you don't draft a wide receiver in the third round if your wideout, your current wideout, is not producing good enough numbers. Because if they did, they would have not drafted Chris Broswell in the third round.
Yeah, I still think there's a chance that David Moore is going to be on this team, and it's because of the fact that you need that veteran leadership, and he gets it. And we've seen on tape that when Bryce needs to go to him, more often than not, he can deliver. So I wouldn't count him out yet. And yeah, I mean, it'd be great if we could see a nice jump with Jimmy Horn. The thing is with Canales and Isaac, these guys are they're receiver guys, they're coaches. So they listen, if they're guys that they can see any kind of like, build up with, or anyone like development, that's the potential is there, then they're gonna stick with them, and they're gonna, we're gonna see what we can do. But if there's a guy like, for example, Xavier Leggett, where you're regressing, they 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 might just say, you know what, man, it just didn't work out here. We can't afford to keep waiting. We really need this speed threat, and we just don't see either side. I mean, that might happen as well. It'd be great if Leggett makes that jump, and all of a sudden now we've got the problem of having two speedy, but we just haven't seen that yet. So I think that makes it a unique situation with this team, with when you bring up the wideouts. And you've got to remember, this coaching staff, between offensive coordinator and the head coach, they that's their bread and butter. And so it'll be interesting to see when the camp, the battle begins in camp.
Which, I mean, Excel, maybe it's just me, but I really don't consider Excel to be a speedster. I consider him more to be like a possession wideout. Like you have Jimmy on who can burn it out. I would even venture to say Jalen Coker is faster than Excel.
Jalen Coker's quick. Um, the question with Coker is he going to be able to start the season off after this offseason as healthy as he finished it? Hey, did you know you got Steph Curry in the chat? You got Steph Curry watching.
I know, I know.
Nice.
Appreciate it. He's a big Panthers fan, Stephen Curry.
Yeah,
The,
big fan, big Panther fans of Curry's.
yeah, which speaking of a fan, I don't know if you saw it or not, but Browswell grew up a Panthers fan.
Yeah, I did see that. He said around third grade or something that he, I don't know how much of a fan. Maybe I think he just liked the coloring and everything of the logo or something. But
Actually,
he knew a little bit about the old school days.
yeah, sidetracked. You mentioned that he became a Panther fan when Cam Newton played, and basically he played at, I believe, in high school. The team name was the Panthers, and then when Cam Newton was on TV, he basically became a Panthers fan ever since Cam Newton played. So, so it's, I mean, I know it's just kids being drafted, but I feel like the culture is changing here in Carolina. And the question is, can they turn it into back to back winning? Because at the end of the day, and we all know Jake Delhomme, and if you did not go watch his intro on YouTube afterward, where he say the ranking NFL NFC South champ, the Carolina Panthers. So it's all nice and fantastic and glory to say that. The question is, can they do it back to back? And instead of winning 8 games and squeezing in, win 10 games, 11 games, which we'll get to the schedule 2 weeks from now when we'll have a show for the schedule prediction and all of that. But the thing is, I I mean, I look at last year's draft and it was basically home run, completely home run, except for one guy that I believe we traded him for Michael Jackson, or maybe it was the previous year. Yeah, it was the previous year. So last year, literally everyone made the team and was a starter. And when I'm looking at this year's draft class, I don't see, I mean, Monroe Freeman might be a starter day one, I'm not sure. Lee Hunter is probably a rotational player. The center, Sam Hitch, is probably going to fight with Luke Faulkner for the starting position. Chris Browswell might be a starter. I don't know. The cornerback and the safety, more of the backup position. And then the linebackers that we drafted, he might not even make the team, to be honest with you. So it's, I mean, it could be both. I mean, you've seen the grade, and everyone said the Jags got a really bad grade. The Falcons didn't do so well. But the question is, did we get better? And did we address all the positions prior to the draft? In my opinion, we did not address them like we should have.
So you would have gotten the safety out of Ole Miss. Is that your big point?
Toledo, not
Toledo.
yeah,
They kind of have
yeah.
similar colors, but it's like it's kind of the same kind of writing too. Yeah, easy mistake. Um, all right. Well, I mean, that's we'll see. I think you've heard a lot of talk. Whether there was Buckner this morning on Mac and Bone, or a lot of other guys. I mean, when you solidify that defensive line and these guys, that makes it so much easier for everybody else in the back end. So I think Nick Scott had his moments last year. I thought for the most part he had a good season. Um, Maybe you never know, man. He might even have a better year this year. So safety's an interesting position like that.
I think, Bo, honestly, I have a better chance of winning the lottery than Nick Scott having a great season. Because let's be honest, he's a below average center who probably know a lot of secret and probably best friend with the Jero Vero. Because, I mean, honestly, he had 109 tackles last season, which is nice. Clap. Very nice. But unfortunately, why did we lose the game to the Rams? I mean, yeah, Bryce had the interception, but Nick Scott got beat up multiple times, and I'm sure, joking aside, I'm sure he's a great dude off the field, and he's a tremendous person. But player-wise, I would have never brought him back, to be honest with you, because 109 tackles. But when you get beat up consistently, are you okay with mediocre result or not? That is the question.
Well, I think Stafford they threw it towards the middle of the field, so you can go after the linebackers as well, which everybody wanted to upgrade on that as well. They did that. You can't put it all on one player for that collapse. Stafford's a smart quarterback. Sean McVay, their game plan was we're going to go right down the middle of the field. So even if you want to go ahead and you could put it's obviously the players, but at the same time you can't put it all on Nick Scott.
No, I know, but is the question is Sean McVay or any other team? You look at the upcoming opponent. You look at their strength. You look at their weakness. Right now, it's safe to say that they got much better linebacker with Jalen Phillips and Devin Lloyd. Much better upgrade than Christian Roseborn. That is for sure. But what have we done at safety? Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, but first of all, they got what's his name, the guy from Penn State.
Xavier
So
Whitney,
Wheatley.
yeah, but in the fifth
So there
round,
you go. There's a camp battle right there.
fifth round.
He fell a little bit. Some had him projected in the third round, late second. It's one of those things where people put so much on the speed when they go to the combine that guys like Dylan Thieneman shot up the board for some people, and this guy went down the board. When really, people were talking about Thieneman like his Purdue tape was the really high spot when they had him really deep back there. It's like, dude, he was so far out of the play every game that if you have to rely on someone that's going to be the quick guy that's that far back to be your last hope that someone doesn't blow the top off you, that's fine. But I'm not worried about that. Not with these guys. Not when you have a chance that you can get somebody else to protect Bryce on the left side or tackle side, seeing where we're at with this line. So I know I kind of went on a tangent there, but I just think that the safety position is something in the NFL to where I don't know, man. It's just like they said. It's not the highest of premium positions. I think that they showed a lot of faith in Trevon Wallace by not going high on another linebacker. I think that maybe they're not as worried with this with the injuries, and we did see he was progressing a lot, especially when he didn't have to when you're going to be able to give the green dot. It's not going to be Trevor Wallace. He's That's going to be a good situation for him. So I didn't mind the fact that you know Rodriguez probably was really never going to be a pick.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted him, but we didn't get him. The question, like, my thing is, I mean, seventh round, and I know it's just a seventh round, but it almost feel like in the seventh round they took a player just so they take a player. Because from what I've seen, what I've heard, Smoke Ludwig and KB and company, basically, at very best, is probably a special teamer. And don't get me wrong, you need special teamers, but you can sign a street free agent to be a special teamer. So why not potentially draft someone that you could develop into something much more than a special teamer?
What position are you talking about?
Linebacker, the seventh round.
Well, I think there's a pretty steep fall off by the end of that fifth round. The guys you're getting in the sixth and seventh round, they are practice squad potential. That's that's going to be. I mean, gosh, there's guys on this team that I wouldn't have expected to see as much game time last year as we did, and when they did, they actually showed up pretty nicely. So I give credit to Avero for that, because before Corey Thornton got hurt, he was looking like a very capable guy. And you saw where we drafted him. So
Undrafted.
yeah,
Undrafted.
exactly, undraftable. So you can see that you just don't know sometimes whether it's the speed intangibles or whether it's going to carry over from college to pro. It really is kind of like like you said, you're playing the lottery, and not everybody, and no matter how many experts and guys act like they've got the winning numbers, that's not you just don't know yet.
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting last season after the draft, they signed so many undrafted free agent, and you heard so many good things about them. And this year, and I know it's only relatively, but the only good thing we've heard about potentially is Einstein's. Does this mean this draft wasn't deep enough with undrafted, or did someone else get better players? Like, I wouldn't have mind Jalen Daniels, the quarterbacks that the Buccaneers got, for example. I think he has a chance to be a good quarterback. So it's interesting the strategy wise what they did last season compared to this season. And like I said, I feel like the steal of the draft is Sam Achi, the starting center from Kansas State, who I believe is not giving up even one single sack in his career, which is pretty damn impressive. So to get him in the fifth round, that was a steal. That was a major steal. So only time will tell. Only time will tell if this was as good of a draft class as last season or not really. I mean, the truth of the matter is it's difficult to top off what we had last season. Well, basically everyone was a starter.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think they've been doing, for the most part, I think they've been doing pretty good in evaluating talent and being smart about it. I mean, that was the one thing they said they were going to do, is they were going to make sure this was a sustainable product over the years, right? Not just we're going to go all in on a couple or whatever. So they could have gotten sexy on some of those picks for sure, but I think when you build depth, in your rotations on that line, that'll come in handy, because we have all seen those seasons where everyone's all, yeah, yeah, we got the guys, yeah, yeah, and then all of a sudden one injury, two injury, three, and all of a sudden, oh no, we're gonna hurt us. It just turns into that kind of thing. So just knock on wood, I'd do it right now, but my dog would go crazy. But you hope these guys can stay healthy, and if not, it's nice to know that at some very key positions we've got some depth there. And I don't know if we've had that. You know, it, we have not been the team that's had depth going into a season. You know what I mean? I know people said last year, but it's like even last year, it's like we do, but we don't. There's still question marks there. So yeah, like I said, I think this regime with Morgan and Tillis, and I keep on hearing Eric Eager's name being thrown in there, so he's probably having something to do with it. But I like the way they're plotting around. It's like I know you're not a golfer. In fact, I know you hate golf. But when a golfer's out there, he's not trying to just go for the pin on some of these things because there's too much you can lose. Now, just plotting his way around the golf course. Maybe we'll go over here, and then if we have a chance to make that, sure. But I, I'm not over here. They're not paying me Shaqad. I'm not getting paid to defend Nick Scott or Evero and all that. I'm just calling it like I see it. Glass half full.
Yeah, and I guess I'm glass half empty for Nick Scott in a barrel.
You're not glass half empty for Nick Scott. You ordered Diet Coke and he threw your glass at the waiter.
Never. But I'm surprised no tight end. No tight end was drafted. And I know so many tight end went off before they did and a chance, but it's kind of interesting that they didn't draft a tight end, to be honest with you.
Well, the thing with tight end is, and I know, and I'm not. I swear, Shaqad, I listen to so much WFNZ. I feel like I'm just regurgitating some of these takes I hear that I like, but it does take a while to. I'm forgetting who said this, but it's true. It very rarely, even Brock Bowers, very rarely does a tight end come onto the scene and all of a sudden they're an immediate bona fide tight end. That's why I feel like they're going to roll with who they've got. And this next offseason, I think that'll be the one where they spend that kind of squirrel or that kind of money to go ahead and get one of those bona fide tight ends. Because drafting them, it takes years. You don't know if they're going to work out. Similar to like an edge rusher. Like we really like what we're seeing from Nick Gordon. It's still not a guarantee though that he's going to be that bona fide edge rusher. You know what I mean? It's the same thing with tight end. So that's why I don't mind them just saying, you know what, if we don't get the guy that we're thinking of, I would have liked to see if we had an opportunity to get Tank Dell because I think that he would fit great in this offense. But at the same time, it's not how the cards fall sometimes. And in the offseason, I think next year, I think that'll be a target they go after, unless maybe one of these guys really steps up this year. That'd be the best case scenario. If we can get I know we kind of have an idea of what Tommy Tremble is, but you never know. Sometimes some of these guys step up over the offseason that it's kind of like that camp surprise. Like, I don't want to give up on Jatavian Sanders. I don't want to give up on, you know what I mean? Like one of these tight ends where you could say, maybe we should, they're kind of like on the fringe of, are we sure this guy's going to be a long-term, thing? And our fan base, they're hyperbolic. They don't even appreciate Tommy Tremble sometimes, but Tommy Tremble does a lot of things that this offense needs. So I think that they're high enough on that room to where they're going to roll the dice again with this season, and then obviously now after the draft, unless we pick up the guy, one guy that Smokes Eye on. I couldn't say his name. I've got his name in my head. It's like he played at Cleveland for a while.
Yeah, you mentioned Tank Dell.
Njoku?
Yeah, you mentioned Tank Dell. Tank Dell. I think you're mentioning someone else because Tank Dell is a wideout for the Texans, and that's I'm thinking.
Oh, I am. You know what? I did get that wrong. Who's the guy that went to New Orleans?
Jalen Johnson.
No, they got another guy from Georgia. I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, but I did get him messed up with Tank Dell. That's all right. We don't have anyone correcting us.
Oscar Delp. Oscar Delp.
Dell. Knew it was
Yeah.
a Dell in there somewhere.
No, but you're right. David Njoku, right now, technically, you can sign anyone and not worry about camp picks and all of that. Not that they, to be honest with you, I don't think they worry about it to begin with, because if they did, they wouldn't have signed Jalen Phillips and Lloyd, because I do believe it's basically based off how many players you lose versus how many players you sign. And right now they lost Rico. They signed two players. So technically they would have already not got a camp pick to begin with. But yes, I mean they should sign Joko. If they do, that will be great. I mean, you have, I mean, he's a pretty good, reliable tight end. He's a vet, but I think this team right now, pre-schedule wise, is ready to compete for a much bigger than 8 wins and winning out. I really believe that. The question is, can they do it?
We'll see.
Yeah.
We shall
I
see.
I mean, Dan Morgan is coming on tomorrow on FNC, and from what I've heard from the veteran center, 99-year-old JJ Jensen, who basically mentioned that Dan Morgan is a very honest guy, so we should hear some interesting truth from Dan Morgan tomorrow. I think overall they got better. I think other teams got better, but I don't know. I see the way I see it, schedule wise, I still think Tampa is not as good as Carolina. I'm not saying it because I'm a dire Panthers fan, but I feel like Tampa has not addressed Mike Evans' departure. And sure, you cannot replace the Hall of Famer, but I don't think, like, right now on paper they have Chris Godwin and Taz Johnson and Emeka Ibuke. Those are great wideouts, but honestly, in my opinion, Mike Evans is much better than any of those three wideouts.
Yeah, Mike Evans, man, that guy's something else. I'm glad we don't have to deal with him this year. He's a
Unless
play. I
an
mean,
NFC champ
yeah,
game, then we'll have to deal with him. But we'll get to January. We'll get to January. No, so like I said, it's an interesting draft. It's not the sexy picks. They got some players that I think will start, could be starters, other to be determined, and the, but it was also a funny draft. I mean, Monroe Freeman telling Dave Canales, "I love you," which I don't know if you heard it, the clip or not.
oh yeah, I heard the clip.
That was pretty damn funny, because and then he didn't know what keep pounding mean, and they showed him watching the video and all of that. And Leandro, for example, the picture that they took of him, my gosh, his head was giant. Yes, I don't know if that was probably a bad camera angle that they took of him. And then Broswell with his mom from years ago, Bell's Day and Panther. So it's a draft that you have a lot of interesting stuff. And luckily for us, OTA is right across the corner, and before you know it, it will be scheduled release, training camp, and so much more fun stuff to talk about.
Yeah, man, I know it's kind of an interesting time because we've got some good playoffs going on right now. But yeah, there's not going to be a whole lot of big football news. So
Until
what's that?
2 weeks from now,
What's that?
schedule 2 weeks from now.
Oh, I always love the good schedule release. That's almost as fun as the draft because
Yeah,
then you get to
so
start making plans on where you want to go and all the games and everything. Yeah, no doubt.
So we'll definitely have a show 2 weeks from now, and then before you know it, it's OTA. I mean, today the Panthers players spoke, and originally Taylor Moton spoke, and people thought, "Oh my gosh, he's going to retire." That's why he spoke. But it was basically his press conference, Chuba Hubbard, Jonathan Brooks, company. So basically, for us fans, there is quiet time. For the social media team, they are literally working all year round. I mean, Dan Morgan tomorrow is speaking on the radio. Blueprint is dropping probably in a week, 2 weeks from now. The schedule, you know, that they're going to release a great video and all of that. And then OTA, May 26th, OTA starting mini camp. And I'm going to make a quick prediction for the schedule release, and then we will see if I'm right or not in 2 weeks from now. I think we'll have it between 2 to 3 primetime games, and at least one of them Sunday night, Bank of America Stadium, and I think it might be against the Lions or Tampa Bay.
Calling your shot. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, we are due for prime time. We know we are going to be on prime time this season. We are the NFC South champ. There's nothing anyone else can do about it. As the reigning South champ, we are entitled to at least one primetime game. And because Denver was the runner-up AFC champ, Sean Payton punchable face coming to Bank of America Stadium, that is probably going to be a 425 game. And the Seahawks tough schedule on
Yep.
paper.
We
Was going to say sorry, tough schedule on paper, but the last I saw, we only play on paper. And teams that you think will be great, they could be terrible, and same the other way around.
well, I had us 14-3 at the beginning of last season, so at least we went to won the NFC South. So I don't expect to come down from that much, but I'll see how it falls.
Yeah, I mean, on paper, it's a tough them schedule. I mean, we play the Ravens, the Steelers, where we only pay back, the Bengals, we only pay back, the Browns, we only pay back. So that is 4 wins right there. And then the Seahawks, we only pay back, the Broncos, we only pay back, and the Bears, we only pay back, the Lions, we only pay back because they beat us in Detroit. We don't only pay back to the Packers, so that is a loss. So, and then of course Tampa, we only make payback, not to the Falcons, and we only pay back to the Saints. So basically, on paper, we should only lose to the Packers and who else? The Packers and basically the Packers and the Falcons. No, not the Falcons. The Packers, literally just the Packers, because that is the only team that we haven't that we beat last season. So we don't own them a payback. We own payback to the Vikings, Lions, the Bills. So basically 15-1. Mark it down. Willie P style. Mark it down. Of course, I'm kidding about that, but to be determined. That is why we'll have the show in 2 weeks and see break game by game. Should be interesting schedule. Should be interesting season. Looking forward to it.
Cool. Well, thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Bo. Have a great night. Keep pounding.
You too. You too.